Good evening. A walk down the street with man's best friend ended in handcuffs for one Marion County man.
TV 20's Chris Gilmore is here to tell us what witnesses say may have motivated the man to pit two dogs against one another.
Dave, family members say Wayne Gibson of Bellevue has a long history of mental illness and addiction. But according to sheriff's deputies, witnesses say alcohol played a major role in a bloody fight between two otherwise friendly neighborhood dogs.
He was highly intoxicated.
But it may have been a mix of things that led to Wayne Gibson's arrest Friday night on charges of animal cruelty.
He's been on medication for depression that I know of.
Judgment was the first thing to go, according to family who say Gibson drunkenly stormed out of the house with a dog named Mr. in tow. That's when Mr's owner, who didn't wish to be identified, became concerned.
Like, they're my children. They sleep with me, they sit on my lap. This one's always in the chair with me.
According to law enforcement and witnesses, Gibson took a short walk down the street until he came across a tethered dog named Blue and encouraged Mr. to attack. And Mr. Gibson eventually made his way to this residence where he allegedly sicked his dog on Blue. Now you can see the point where the incident occurred, highlighted by bloodstains still here days later.
My family just came up and said that he just walked up from the side of the tree and just started fighting my dog. He couldn't do nothing. He was hanging off the other side of his doghouse. There was nothing he could do, really. My friend said that he bit him a couple times on the side of his head, but there was nothing he could do.
Gibson's excuse for being on the property drew skepticism from responding deputies.
The dog dragged him into the yard, but when we looked at the size of the dog and then looked at the size of Mr. Gibson, he's a 240-pound, 35-year-old man.
The sheriff's office found Gibson in violation of Florida Statute 828.12, also known as the Animal Fighting Act. Still shaken days later, Mr's owner says Gibson is no longer welcome in her home.
When they told me my dog was involved in a fight, I was more concerned about my dog than him.
Both owners tell me their dogs have never attacked anyone on 2 or 4 legs before the recent incident. Gibson is still in jail on $2,000 bond. I actually attempted to reach out to him today in jail, but was told he's on suicide watch. Chris Gilmore, TV 20 News.
Cloudy day around north central Florida today. What can we expect tonight?
How much rain do you think we'll get tomorrow, Mike?
Some spots could be see up near an inch, maybe even a little bit more for a few isolated spots, and that rain will start in the morning. But before then, a warm afternoon all the way up to 86 degrees for a high today here in Gainesville. A warm one, but clouds have been the story for the most part. We're trying to clear out a little bit, but you'll continue to see the clouds. They're going to increase here over the next couple of hours. Regardless, still 81 in Gainesville, still 82 in Ocala. Clouds have been the story. A few isolated showers earlier on, but we've been having people wonder if we're going to be able to see the lunar eclipse tonight. It's going to be a reddish color on the moon. It should be pretty interesting to see. The only problem is we're expecting more cloud cover. If we will be able to see it, you'll be outside early this morning at 12:53 a.m. That would be the best time to see it, but I'm just not optimistic right now. I think we're going to have too many clouds in place to see it. Let's hope not. Either way, temperatures will be mild. It'll be a great night to go out there and at least take a look to see if it's there. Temperatures should be all the way down into the mid-60s, so a mild night tonight. Will warm up tomorrow, but rain is on the way. I'll have a look at that for you coming up in just a couple of minutes.
New from us tonight, the man who was hit and killed by a train in Marion County has been identified. According to sheriff's deputies, 37-year-old James Baird III of Bellevue was killed. He was reportedly walking south in the middle of the tracks around 11 o'clock this morning when the train was traveling north. Witnesses told investigators the train blew its horn more than once. Baird died at the scene.
New details tonight in a murder investigation in Lake City. A suspect is now in custody after authorities from several agencies were able to capture him over the weekend. Carlos Lindsay III of Lake City was wanted in the murder of 36-year-old Shaquasha Shante Avigar. Law enforcement officers surrounded a house yesterday afternoon. They had recently been broken into and found him inside. Authorities say Lindsay surrendered. After arriving at the police station to be interviewed, Lindsay passed out. Investigators say prescription bottles and pills were found inside the home where Lindsay was arrested. He was taken to a Gainesville hospital where he is still being treated. He faces a murder charge with other charges still pending.
Now on to a developing story out of Marion County. The woman who walked into a north central Florida Publix with no pants on and tried to walk out with more than $40 worth of boxed wine has finally been arrested. Ocala police have taken into custody 35-year-old Desiree Taylor. She became hysterical when she was confronted outside the doors of that store last Tuesday and fled. A warrant for arrest was issued, and after a search, she was arrested outside of her apartment this morning. She was given a jumpsuit to wear at the Marion County Jail.
The train stopped running through High Springs many years ago, and now work is being done to make sure they will never again. Florida Department of Transportation workers are tearing up the tracks where they cross Main Street. TV 20's Nico Clemens reports residents are making sure the railroad's legacy will never be forgotten.
Paige, trains haven't passed through High Springs since 2011. The tracks are no longer functional, and it's time for the town to say goodbye to them.
It's going to improve traffic flow at this intersection.
Main Street in downtown High Springs is under construction all this week as Florida Department of Transportation is removing the railroad tracks and signals. In addition, Main Street will be repaved and the sidewalk repaired. Detours have been set up and police officers are assisting with the flow of traffic.
Some of the residents have complained about the condition of the road at the tracks, and so that's why they're taking the tracks up and repaving the road so it'll be a smoother road.
The closure began this morning and is expected to reopen this Friday. Tracks have been here for 130 years when the Savannah, Florida and Western Railroad began service to the area. As many businesses are familiar with the history of High Springs, most aren't worried about the effect removing the tracks could have.
I don't anticipate it impacting my business at all.
One business is benefiting from this project. The High Springs Historical Society and Museum are taking some of the railroad tracks and lights and placing them on display.
We want to preserve the history of High Springs. These crossings have been here for years, which originally part of the original railroad. It's one of the biggest hubs in this area, and we just want to preserve it.
Museum President Bob Watson and Vice President Jim Dyksterhouse say they've been given permission to take the remaining elements of the railroad for their museum. This day is one they'll never forget.
Well, we're disappointed that the railroad's leaving. I mean, that was an integral part of the history of High Springs.
The roadway will reopen early if the work is completed ahead of schedule, but could last longer if it rains. You can call 1-888-558-1518 to find out where FDOT is on construction. Nico Clemens, TV 20 News.
A bill at the State House would give North Central Florida school districts more control over textbooks.
But are all school districts really on board with the plan? We'll take a look when we come back.